Imagine putting on a headset and instantly finding yourself standing on Mars. The sky is tinted red, the air hums with wind, and beneath your boots is dust that hasn't been touched in billions of years. You look around, and it feels real. But none of it exists. Not the ground, not the air, not even the sound. That is the promise of virtual reality, the power to trick the brain so completely that illusion becomes indistinguishable from experience. But how did humanity go from the realm of dreams and science fiction to creating alternate worlds within machines? The story of virtual reality isn't just about technology. It is a mirror of our imagination, our curiosity, and our eternal desire to experience the impossible. To understand where VR truly began, we have to step back centuries before headsets and pixels. Humans have always sought to escape the limits of their physical world through stories, paintings, theater, and myths. Ancient cave paintings, for instance, weren't just decorations. Many anthropologists believe they were immersive experiences for early humans. Flickering torches on the stone walls would make painted animals seem to move, bringing hunts and rituals to life. In a way, those caves were humanity's first virtual spaces. Shared illusions where imagination met perception. Fast forward to the 19th century. The world was industrializing, and for the first time, technology began intersecting with visual trickery. Entered the stereoscope, invented by Sir Charles Wheatstone in 1838. It was a simple wooden device with two lenses showing two slightly different images, one to each eye to create a sense of depth. When people first peered through it, they gasped. The world inside appeared three-dimensional, alive, like peeking through a window into another realm. It was revolutionary. The Victorian version of putting on a VR headset. As photography advanced, stereoscopic images became a global craze. People collected stereo cards of faraway places, from the pyramids of Egypt to the streets of Paris, experiencing worlds they might never physically reach. It wasn't called virtual reality yet, but that's exactly what it was. A bridge between presence and imagination, powered by optics and curiosity. But humanity's dream of full immersion was only growing bolder. In 1935, long before any computer existed, science fiction writer Stanley G. Weinbaum published a short story titled Pygamalion's Spectacles. It described a magical pair of goggles that allowed users to experience a movie that gives one sight, sound, taste, smell, and touch. Readers dismissed it as fantasy, yet his words eerily predicted exactly what VR would one day become. By the mid-20th century, engineers and inventors began to chase that fantasy. In 1956, cinematographer Morton Heilig built what many considered the first true VR machine. The Sensorama. It looked like a giant arcade booth, where users sat and were surrounded by stereoscopic visuals. Stereo sound, vibrations, and even smells. You could ride a motorcycle through Brooklyn, feel the wind, hear the traffic, and smell the exhaust. All simulated. Heilig believed he'd created the future of cinema, calling it experience theater. But the world wasn't ready. The Sensorama was too big, too expensive, and decades ahead of its time. Then came 1968, a moment that changed everything. Computer scientist Ivan Sutherland and his student Bob Spruill built the first head-mounted display system, nicknamed the Sword of Damocles. Because it was so heavy, it had to be suspended from the ceiling. The visuals were crude wireframe rooms and shapes, but it was the first time a computer could generate an interactive 3D world that responded to your movements. For the first time, humanity wasn't just watching technology. It was inside it. As computing advanced through the 1970s and 1980s, the dream of virtual reality started to gain substance. NASA began experimenting with virtual interfaces to train astronauts, allowing them to practice movements and navigation and digital simulations of space environments. Meanwhile, visionary computer scientist Jaron Lanier, often called the father of virtual reality, popped the very term virtual reality in the 1980s. Lanier's company VPL Research developed some of the earliest data gloves and headsets that tracked movement. They were bulky, slow, and expensive. But they worked. Suddenly, people could reach into a digital world and see their virtual hands move. Pop culture exploded with the idea. Movies like Tron 1982 and The Lawnmower Man 1992 imagined cyberspaces where humans could upload themselves into digital worlds. To the public, VR became a symbol of both wonder and danger, a place where the boundaries between human and machine could blur. The excitement was palpable, but the reality lagged behind. The computers of the time couldn't render convincing worlds fast enough. Headsets were heavy, nauseating, and cost as much as a house. The dream flickered, then faded. For a while, virtual reality became a punchline, a futuristic promise that never arrived. But quietly, in the shadows of gaming labs and tech startups, the dream survived. In the early 2000s, advancements in motion sensors, 3D graphics, and display technology reignited the fire. Then, in 2012, a young engineer named Palmer Luckey posted on a message board about a homemade VR headset he'd built in his garage, the Oculus Rift. It caught the attention of thousands, including gaming legend John Carmack. The hype was so electric that it sparked a modern VR renaissance. When Facebook, now Meta, bought Oculus for $2 billion in 2014, the world realized VR was back, and this time, it meant business. What was once science fiction had become the next frontier of human experience. Suddenly, developers everywhere began racing to create digital worlds, not just for games, but for education, therapy, art, and communication. You could walk through ancient Rome, paint in 3D space, explore the human bloodstream, or attend a concert on the moon, all without leaving your room. But here's where things get truly fascinating. VR isn't just about creating new worlds. It's about understanding the human brain. The reason virtual reality feels real isn't because the technology is perfect. It's because our minds are so easy to trick. Our brains evolved to trust our senses, not to question them. When the eyes see a horizon moving as you walk, your body believes you're moving. When a virtual object reacts to your touch, your neurons fire as if you truly felt it. This illusion of presence, the sense of being there, is what makes VR so powerful and so eerie. Psychological studies have shown that virtual experiences can alter memory, behavior, and emotion. In VR, people can overcome phobias by confronting fears safely, like standing on a virtual ledge to treat fear of heights. Soldiers use VR therapy to process trauma. Surgeons practiced complex procedures in digital bodies before ever picking up a scalpel. Students travel through history, exploring ancient civilizations not through pictures but through presence. Yet, the psychological implications run deeper. When the brain begins to treat virtual experiences as real, what does that mean for our sense of reality? Researchers warn that prolonged immersion can blur the lines between digital and physical, leading to post-VR sadness or disorientation when returning to the real world. In the future, as VR becomes more convincing, we may need new philosophies, even ethics, for existing in multiple realities at once. The story of VR is also a story of human emotion. It reveals our longing for escape, our craving for control, and our endless curiosity. From the ancient cave artist to the modern game designer, every step of VR's evolution reflects our desire to go beyond the ordinary. What's fascinating is that the deeper we build into these virtual worlds, the more we uncover about ourselves, how we think, how we perceive, and what we truly value. Today, VR has gone far beyond gaming. It's shaping the Metaverse, a concept of interconnected virtual spaces, where people can live digital lives, parallel to their real ones. Companies are building virtual offices, stores, and even cities. Architects are designing buildings inside VR before they exist in real life. Psychologists use VR to study empathy, letting people experience the world from another person's perspective, even their race or gender. The line between experience and simulation is dissolving before our eyes. And yet, the seeds of all this can be traced back to imagination. From Weinbaum, as fictional goggles, to Heilig's, every leap in VR's history was driven not by what existed, but by what someone dreamed could exist. The sci-fi writers, the inventors tinkering in garages, the researchers simulating stars, they were all explorers of invisible worlds. But perhaps the most profound thing about virtual reality, isn't what it shows us, it is what it asks us. If we can create worlds that feel real, if we can walk through impossible landscapes, touch memories, and live in dreams, then what does real even mean anymore? Maybe that's the ultimate irony. In chasing the perfect illusion, virtual reality might bring us closer to understanding the most real thing of all. The mind itself, so the next time you slip on a headset and find yourself somewhere else. Entirely, remember this. You're a part of a story that began long before computers. A story of humanity's oldest instinct to imagine a world beyond the one we see, and in doing so, we've turned imagination into a place we can finally enter. This is Flashback Facts, where the history of everything you love comes alive.